Hey, we're Saints. Father Chris here. Welcome to our Crucifixion of Life. I'm glad to have you with us as we are in a new venue. This is the ballroom facility at the parish that Greg and I serve. And so we set up for some other recordings, and here we are. And I'm going to talk to you about what happened 2 nights ago. So we have numerous Bible studies throughout the month. You know, we have weekly ones and then also some that meet on a monthly basis. One of them is for our young moms, and these are for the gals, the married ladies who have small children and they want to get out and, get a breather, let the dads take care of them kids and learn a little bit about Scripture. It was very interesting because we've been mostly just fielding questions, about life, about marriage, about raising children, dealing with husbands, all that good stuff. And so they wanted instead to be more focused on a scriptural text and exegete it. Let's go through it, explain it. What's it mean? We have a hard time with the Bible. We want to read it. We want to be good, biblically minded warrior saints. But when we read it, we get confused. And sometimes we're intimidated by it because we don't know what's going on. I said, ladies, this is awesome. Let's get some. And so we decided together to study 1 Corinthians, St. Paul's epistle, his first epistle to the church in Corinth. And it ended up being a fabulous conversation. The ladies were unbelievable and thoughtful and, argumentative, not in a fighting kind of way, but arguing through ideas, which we love. And it was fabulous. There was a moment that was really interesting, that really exposed the fear and the discomfort that many people have with Scripture. And that is from 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 25. Now, I'm going to read it to you twice. I'm going to read it, I'm going to go back behind it, and then I'm going to read it again, so hopefully you can see what happens. And here in 25, so just very quick, chapter 1 is about, of 1 Corinthians, is about the gospel of the cross. And St. Paul is telling the Corinthian Christians, God did not send me to baptize. I baptized a couple of dudes, but God sent me to preach the gospel, to preach Christ crucified, right? It's a powerful, powerful, beautiful text. And in verse 25, he says the following: "For the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men." And one of the young ladies was like, I don't get it. How can it be that we're saying God is foolish or God is weak? God's not weak. I thought he was all powerful and I thought he was wise. What's happening? How could we talk about foolishness, right? And it's a legitimate question. And as we went through the conversation, I kind of explained to them exactly what was being said, and then boom, she got it. All right. Now, in order to put it in context, you got to remember, in the Roman Empire, the Greco-Roman Empire, of which Corinth was obviously one of the cities, the emperor, the king, is powerful. He's not weak. He's supposed to be wise, or a la Plato, right, the Republic. He's supposed to be a wise leader, and yet he is victorious, and also victorious over all of his enemies. He never loses, right? So for St. Paul to be saying that the one who is dead and naked upon the cross is the king, it's foolishness. It's scandal. It doesn't make any sense. What the hell are you talking about, right? It doesn't work. And so, yet, this is what St. Paul is saying. Now listen to what he says a few verses earlier in 1 Corinthians chapter 1. "For Jews demand signs and Greeks seek wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews and folly to the Gentiles." And in 24, "But those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God." All right, so to break down those words a little bit, for the Jews who are seeking, freedom from Roman oppression, they are looking for a powerful, mighty, earthly king with a sword. And so to see someone proclaiming the crucified Messiah as the king is a stumbling block. But in Greek, it's skandalizome, right? You can hear it. It's scandalous. They're looking for one type of king. Paul is preaching a different type of king, and the two didn't come together. For the Gentiles who look for wisdom. Now keep in mind too that Corinth was one of the major cities in the Greek province Achaia, of which Athens, Plato's city, was the capital. And so you would think that it would be about wisdom. And so Paul's message, at least to the Greek Christians, is folly. Now that word in Greek is moria, which, if you listen to it, you can hear where we get the English word moronic, or moron, right? It is that which is completely juxtaposed to wisdom. So Paul is saying that the crucified Messiah is the king, and they're saying, oh, that's foolishness. That's against wisdom. Kings don't lose, right? It just didn't make sense in their minds. And so with all of this going on, Paul is acknowledging that what I am preaching, the crucified Messiah, to the world, it seems scandalous to the Jews. It's a stumbling block because they want an earthly king with a sword. It seems moronic or folly to the Gentiles because they want wisdom and perfection and eternality. And yet, for the message that I'm preaching, again, listen in verse 24. Greg, you don't have to put it up there, but just listen to it in verse 24. But to those who are called Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. So what looks like foolishness, what looks like weakness to the world is actually the power of God. And so that's why Paul, and now we look at verse 25 again. The foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. What you look at, O worldly people, and think of as weakness or as foolishness is indeed the power and the strength of God. He has flipped upside down the reasonings of the world. And if you see that as the power that it is life-changing, life-altering. And that's the whole message of the gospel of Jesus Christ, is that as strange as it may seem to the world, as oxymoronic, as backwards, as upside down as it may seem, that Jesus Christ on the cross not only shows himself to be Lord, but he crushes in his power the might of death, right? In that moment, death is slain. In that moment, sin is slain. And so it may look like weakness and foolishness to the world, and yet God's weakness and foolishness is more powerful and more wise than anything of the world. Because the only thing that should not work is indeed the only thing that does work, right? And that's the power of the message. And for those of us who, as warrior saints, who have put our trust in that, who know that, we're like, absolutely. And you know, I'm not alone in this, that when you live a crucifixional life, when you strive to emulate Christ, things work as they're supposed to. Life isn't always easy. No one's going to give you a free pass just because you believe in Jesus. It's hard. I mean, life is what it is. But the only way to overcome, as Christ overcame death through the cross, so too might we, as warrior saints who live that crucifixional life, overcome whatever obstacle is put in our way. And then hopefully, by God's grace, at the end, may be granted life eternal. I mean, that's the power of the message. And so when we talked through all of that, the ladies were like, oh, I never thought of it like that. I never got it. And thank you for sharing it. They were very gracious to me. They even said, we like doing it like this. We don't want to go back into different directions. Keep going through the text because it was unclear to us. It was intimidating to us, but you made it clear and we got it. And I thought, well, thank God. I mean, that's the highest of all compliments they could have ever given to me. But it made me think, and forgive the boasting. I don't mean to boast in any regard, but I'm not good at very many things. Greg is better at many more things than I, but both of us are really exceptional at taking the scriptural text, understanding it, and explaining it in ways that are palatable and relevant to people. That's why we have at Warrior Saints our Understanding the Bible series. I mean, it's like, we put stuff out there to help you understand Scripture because so many people complain about how difficult it is. I don't understand it. It's confusing. I get lost. It doesn't make sense, right? And so we built our own app. We have our own app where we teach Scripture in very simple ways. And you watch it. It's like a Bible study in your pocket. I mean, you can watch it, clearly, quickly on your phone. They're like, boom, get in, boom, get out. So you can read a chapter and then understand the chapter as you go through the text and you're like, I got it, right? The good news about that is that once you do that, once you watch this Understanding the Bible series stuff, it's life-changing, right? Like the stuff in the world, the rules that the world wants you to engage in the world by don't work. It does not work, and you know that. And the proof is not me saying it. The proof, baby, is in the pudding. Look at yourself, your own lives, and look at the people in the world around you. Misery abounds. But when we turn our lives into a life that is crucifixional, emulating Christ, it works, and it works every time. Again, not easy. It's not going to be like a free pass, but it always works because Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. So we throw it out there. We want you guys to if you're looking for it and you don't want to be like those gals at that Bible study 2 nights ago that don't get it, get Understanding the Bible. I mean, it's there. It's easy. Just subscribe to it and you'll see. I mean, it's out there. We even have the entire book of 1 Corinthians out there already complete. All right, we're going to be back tomorrow to wrap up the week. Love you, beautiful people. Until then, as always, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.